Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the video. We're going to be talking about Bethesda's E3 conference. This is a bit of a roundup, and the company didn't disappoint. There were a couple of surprise announcements, and of course, a couple of announcements which had leaked ahead of time. For example, the Skyrim remaster. One of the titles which definitely was on my radar was Prey. Now, I originally played Prey way back in the day on the Xbox 360, but to say that Prey 2 had faced troubled development is a bit of an understatement. It's a bit like me telling you that your boat being hit by a torpedo may interrupt your journey. However, we now get Prey shown off to us, and it looks a hell of a lot different. In fact, it's fair to say that it barely resembles the original Prey 2. And there is a brief story description. You are Morgan Yu, the subject of morally dubious experiments, let's face it, that seems to be a pretty big theme, designed to improve the human race. You awaken on Talos 1 in the year 2032 and must uncover the secrets hiding in the depth of space station while you're being hunted by a mysterious alien force that has taken over. You have to rely on the tools you find in the station, along with your wits, weapons and mind-bending abilities, to combat the growing threat and hopefully survive. From a personal standpoint, this is probably the game that I'm most interested in. It's going to be appearing on the usual suspect platforms, the PC, the Xbox One and the PS4 in 2017. There is no mention of an NX version, but whether that's going to change in, let's say, 6 months' time, down to your imagination, really. It's now being taken care of Arcane Austin, and I quite like it. As I said to you earlier, was quite a big fan of Prey, the original on the Xbox 360, which is what I played it on. I didn't play any other version, but I quite liked it. I quite liked the way that the gameplay unfolded, the rather awesome gravity-defying way of exploring the levels, even though at times it could be a bit confusing, at least I found so. And I love the weapons, the setting. So I think the fact that this is going to be a bit darker, maybe a little more horror-esque, and it's definitely on my excitement list. Speaking of excitement list, I guess the next logical thing to talk about would be virtual reality. Everyone seems to have their finger in the virtual reality pie, and Bethesda are opening a new division of the studio just to make VR games experiences. So for example, we're going to be seeing a VR version of Fallout 4 for the HTC Vive, and that, once again, is going to be out in 2017. It's a bit of a mystery how VR is going to work with Fallout 4, because the studio didn't really say it, but I imagine if it is a fully immersive experience, to say the least, people are going to get completely and utterly engrossed and lost in Fallout 4. With that said, the company also mentioned that we're going to see a new variant of Doom, and it's going to be Doom content for virtual reality, and we're going to be able to get the latest and best graphics, but it was hinted that we won't get the full game experience in virtual reality. Now, whether that's just to do with the workload, whether they don't feel that the full experience is necessarily conducive to virtual reality, for example, there's concerns of motion sickness, or what, is unknown. So I guess the best way of being able to describe this would be a virtual tour of hell. So, kind of interesting, but perhaps my most anticipated game aside from Prey was Dishonored 2. Now, I must admit, the original Dishonored was a bit of a sleeper hit for me. I originally owned the game and then didn't really play it for a long period of time. I played the initial 30 or 40 minutes and then just kind of left it in my games library for a good couple of months, and then finally I got back to it, and I really put some time into it, and I fell in love with the way that the story unfolded. I loved the world, I loved the powers, and I loved the freedom, the choices of being able to essentially attack any mission in any number of different ways, whether it's completely lethal, whether it was more benign and sneaky, or whether it was a combination of the two. You really got to experience the game in your own specific way, for the most part. Now obviously there were some balance issues, and the game at points could look a little ropey, for example low resolution textures, and naturally we also had some gameplay elements which definitely could do with some work. But, holy crap, I've got to say that Dishonored 2, it looks very impressive. It basically, if I had to describe it in an elevator pitch, would be the original Dishonored, but on steroids. It looks like you've got even more levels of freedom. The amount of powers that you have improved, as well as their effectiveness, which, to be fair, could lead to some balance issues, but I don't think necessarily Dishonored is supposed to be balanced. And also levels seem to have an even greater level of verticality to them. Not only that, but you've got all the normal lethal or non-lethal approaches, and I must say, from a personal perspective, I think the game looks absolutely phenomenal. It's set in a fictional location known as Karnataka, but interestingly, while you expected them to be utilising an id Tech engine, for example id Tech 6, which of course is what Doom is using, they decided not to do that, and they're still using a Void engine. Now, whether there's a specific reason for that, and it's very the reverse of what, let's say, Ubisoft are doing, or even Electronic Arts with their Frostbite engine. They are utilising a lot of different engines and a lot of different studios. Not that there's anything wrong with that, I am just curious as to the reasoning behind it. Now obviously you still got Corvo, and you've also got, spoiler from the original game, so close your ears if you don't want to know this, although I think many of you probably do, Emily Caldwin. So each one is going to have their own special abilities. Primarily in the trailer we're mostly seeing Emily, which I guess is fine. It also adds a level of replayability to the title as well. So yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to the second Dishonored. Naturally, it's going to appear on all the platforms that you can expect, and is going to appear in November 11th, 2016. If you're a fan of Wolfenstein The New Order or The Old Blood, then we might have some good news for you. Bethesda possibly teased a new Wolfenstein title known as New Colossus. Now, why do we think that? Well, during the ending of Wolfenstein The New Order, there was a poem which BJ recites, and that poem was The New Colossus. You might also notice that the dates for A New Colossus are starred out, whereas the other ones actually have, well, the dates in there. So that would be 14 for the New Order and 15 for Old Blood. I refer, of course, to the year, and then you've got the dates, or rather the years, for Doom, Doom 3, and so on, and all are pretty accurate. So it makes a lot of sense that this could indeed be a new Wolfenstein game. And if so, that's absolutely fantastic. I absolutely adored A New Order, so I'd be absolutely thrilled to see another Wolfenstein. For many, they're looking to get re-immersed into Skyrim. So, Skyrim Remaster, also known as Skyrim Special Edition, is coming to the PC, which was a bit ambiguous at first. Many didn't believe that that was to be the case, the PS4 and the Xbox One. Interestingly, Skyrim Remaster also introduces mod support for consoles, and it's not necessarily a free-for-all. Bethesda will be essentially having the final say on whether a mod is released. It's going to be very Fallout-like. But there is an awful lot of graphical overhauls for the remastered version. For example, volumetric God rays, dynamic depth of field, screen space reflections, new snow shaders, new water shaders, remastered arts, better textures, and so on and so on and so on. So if you own Skyrim and all of its add-ons, or you simply own the Legendary Edition on Steam, the good news is you do get a free upgrade. So, in short, you get Skyrim Special Edition for completely free with all of the new shiny extras. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works on the PC. Whether, for example, modders are going to be able to push the game even harder, because let's face it, you can actually get a lot of these graphical add-ons in various mods already. You can get ridiculously high resolution textures and other bits and bobs if you so desire to spend that time to mod the game. But for folks who can't be asked, then you do have these, well, essentially an easy plug-in version. Quake Champions. Well, I'd love to say that I was impressed with the game, but honestly, the trailer was about as forthright as an average politician. All you got to say was a few little bits and bobs, for example, what potentially the classes are going to be like, and some small explosive battles which took place in a large arena, but not really any hint of how the game is going to unfold. We're going to have to wait until QuakeCon, which is going to take place in August, so it's not really a long time away before we get that bit of information. How it's going to play, what type of gameplay we're going to get, whether it's going to be more Doom-esque, as in the latest Doom, or whether it's going to be more the traditional Quake 1 or Quake 2 or possibly Quake 3 Arena, in terms of how, for example, the progression systems work, how the weapons work, and all of that stuff is unknown. Kind of looking forward to it. I imagine it's going to be on the PC, that's already confirmed, but whatever platforms it's going to be on, your guess is as good as mine, at least right now. Finally, Fallout 4. So there's a new expansion coming, known as Nuka World, which is going to be released this August. This is going to be the final Fallout 4 DLC, but it's going to have a major story-based addition. So, essentially, we're also seeing the teasing of the Vault Tech Workshop, which is going to allow players, of course, to build their own vaults, but that's released at a slightly different time. That's going to be released in July. Now, personally speaking, I'm not that fussed about this DLC. I've not really gotten super amounts into Fallout 4. I think it's a good game. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but personally, I couldn't get fully immersed into the game world. I don't know if it's the humour, I don't know if it's just me. I can really get immersed into Skyrim, I can really get immersed into Elder Scrolls, but I've just never been able to do it with Fallout, and I've tried several times with different games, the original Fallout, Fallout 4, the Fallout 3, New Vegas, and I've gotten a certain amount through, and then I don't know, I just can't get into them any further, and I don't know why. It's a real shame, because I think if I could get into them and really immerse myself into them long periods of time, I might really like it, but there's just something about the gameplay or something that just puts me off. Regardless, it's looking a cool expansion for folks who do enjoy the game, and let's face it, my opinion on whether a game's good or whether I enjoy it doesn't necessarily equate to yours, so if this is your thing, then go ahead and buy it, that's what I say. Anyway, it's going to be a crazy couple of days for me, and RGT in general, probably a crazy week actually, so do stick with us. Obviously there's a lot of hardware that's popping out over the next month or two. We've got an absolute crazy amount of reviews coming out. News, we're going to be changing the formats of some of our videos again to better reflect what we want to accomplish, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff as well. But with all of that said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon, take care, bye for now.